Hello and welcome back to another Mahner Farms video. Today we're once again on a nice, we'll call it warm January day. You can't even really see my breath, so we have to call it warm. And today we are going to we have a guy coming that we've had once to look at it, and now we have him coming to actually start working on it to fix the rafters here in the barn. And so we've talked about this in previous videos that these round rafter barns, they're great for a lot of things. One, internal storage space, next to none, because there's pretty much nothing blocking you. So you get these giant open haymows where you can really fit a lot of bales. So that's one advantage of them. But design-wise, all of the structural integrity is on the outside of the building, okay? So you have it all in these rafters, which are, strong laminate rafters, and they have interlocking boards on them. So they've got a lot of strength to them. And all of that goes straight down into the concrete walls below them. Now, best case scenario, you've got reinforced poured concrete, and then, you have really strong walls. We have blocks, which isn't as good, but as long as they're in good shape, it still works. And so what happens with these things is that they start to kind of slide off the walls, and that can happen for lots of reasons. Typically what happens is the plates that hold the rafters in place on top of the block walls will deteriorate over time, and then they will just not hold it in place. So you can see stuff like this, where it's starting to slide off the wall. Now, that may look bad. It is bad. That's why we're having someone fix it, but it's not like the barn is about to collapse any moment. It probably took years to get that bad. It would probably take more, years and years more for it to get even worse to the point where it failed. But that's why we're hiring a professional to come in and fix it all. So basically what he's going to do, and who knows, maybe he'll be interested in being in the video and saying some of this for himself, but he's going to be using a system of metal rods that go across from one rafter to another, and they will just jack the barn in where it gets to the point where the roof is straightened out and it's now sitting on the walls. In preparation for this job to be done, because we're not doing it, we're hiring a professional, so we wanted things to be ready. I came in, and in a previous video you saw what I did. I fixed the whole north end of our floor, and we'll go take a look at that, and I also installed doors for our south and north upper windows. So this barn is now more sealed off than it has been for a very, very long time. And for the first time since, for my whole life, we actually have a fully structurally sound floor. So what we did here, and I don't know how much of this I explained in words in the video, but we tore off all of the really bad boards on this side and replaced them with treated 3/4 inch plywood. So they're now very sturdy. And that has been a really good change for lots of things. One of which being it ties all the joists together in a way that makes the whole structure a lot more rigid and sturdy, obviously, but also it strengthens it up. Before, if you walked on any of these sections that are replaced with plywood, you were very, very likely to fall straight through them. And I also went and replaced, there were missing boards and broken boards and a couple rotten boards in the middle, and I went and tore out all of those and replaced them with any of the good boards that we tore up from the other sections, which we did have a couple. But now the entire floor is extremely solid. So that's one of the biggest things that we did in preparation for, hiring someone to come up here and fix everything. And as you can see, this door is a little bit more open right now than I would like it to be. I plan to go up there at some point and install some latches that will anchor the doors to the walls themselves instead of each other. So that way I can keep them closed off a little bit better than that. But you get the idea. At least we have doors now. So ideally, the person we're hiring will be interested in explaining some of this himself and maybe going through some of the technical stuff, or maybe being recorded while he's working. I can't say. I'll ask him, but if he doesn't want to, that's up to him. But what I will do in that case is after he works on it, each time he does, I'll come back and I'll show some more progress if anything visible has changed. So from what I understand, it's mostly going to be the jack up of the rafters. There might be some rafter repair going on for some of the rafters that have been damaged or cracked or anything like that. And there also is a chance that we're going to be getting a support built in the middle of the barn going up to the roof. So there will actually be a beam essentially in place, whereas this barn doesn't have that at the time. And the reason why that might be necessary is this barn has a very heavy roof on it because it has 2 full layers of shingles on it, which is too much weight. At some point, hopefully in the near future, we're going to need to get both of those layers taken off and replaced with steel roofing. We currently don't have the money for that, but when the time comes, that's what we want to do. That'll help a lot. But until then, if we get some structural support put in and the rafters fixed, it should be good to go because we've patched, we've located and repaired all of the leaks or roof damage that we could when we were doing the dormer project. So to the best of our knowledge, at the moment, our roof is not leaking and our rafters are about to be fixed and the haymow floor has already been fixed. So we're making good progress on this portion of the barn repair. So hopefully I'll be able to show you some really interesting stuff, but that's all I have to say for the moment. Well, we're back here with another cold day. It's about -1 without wind chill today, so chilly outside. And I'm inside the barn to record this part because I don't want my hands to freeze up too quick outside. But today we have to open up the lower north window for the haymow so that the guy working on the rafters can get his scaffolding in, because he needs a big enough window. He can't get it up through the chute, so he has to bring it through that window. So that is currently sealed shut. I'm not sure how. I know the one door was open or would swing freely when we started working on the haymow floor, so I just used a little strip of wood and I just screwed it together to hold it shut. So I'm going to take that off. That door opens freely, so I'm not worried about that. The other side, I could see from the outside it had a broken hinge, so I know I need to replace that hinge. But for today, I don't have a hinge with me. Today I just want to get it so it opens and closes. Then I'll jerry-rig something to keep it shut in the meantime until I can get a new hinge on there and put a little latch. Hopefully I can get that done. The guy's working on another barn at the moment. He has to finish that first so he can take his scaffolding down. The other day he was just here to drop off some jacking blocks and stuff, so I want to get it done before he's here so that way he doesn't have to mess with it. He can get right to work, because we preferably want this job done as soon as possible so we can move on to other stuff. So that's what I'm doing today. All right, so this here is the door in question. You can see, like I said, there's a couple things. So there's this 2x4 down here, this one up here, right here, if you can see it. There we go. Those are not part of the structure. Those must have been added on when this door was quote-unquote sealed shut. The door on the left is the one that swings freely once we take that little strip off. The one on the right is the one that's sealed shut, and the hinge that's broken is down here in this corner. So somebody removed every single star drill bit, including all my T20s, from my drill bag without telling me, or I don't know why they would. So, because my first step was going to be to unscrew this, but instead I did bring my Sawzall, so I'm just going to cut that because it's not important anyway. That will open this door, so you can see that opens. But this one here is clearly mounted to this 2x4. Yeah, I can see there's like some screws that were put in at angles here. Those look like T20s. So what I might do, once I get this open, I might cut that board, the 2x4 up top and on the bottom. Just cut them close to the left side, pry them off, and pull those two boards off. As long as, because they don't look like, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna have to figure it out, but I don't have anyone here to record for me, so I can't actually record any of this because, you know, I have to use both hands and it's really cold, so I don't like having my gloves off to do this. So I've described it, now I'm gonna do it, and I'll show you how it ends up. Well, we're here on January 26th after, I believe, 1 workday of progress for the people that we've got working on this, and you can see that they were not slacking. They brought in this whole scaffolding to jack up on this end of the barn, and they want to do that so they can put in some supports to the overall structure to try and take some weight off of what already exists, but most importantly, just to straighten out all of, or as much as possible, of the damage that's been done over the years so that they can start to actually pull the walls back in towards where they're supposed to be. To do that, because of the 2 layers of shingles on this barn and the immense weight that is, they have to take a lot of that off. So you can see that they've done a tremendous amount of structure building on the inside just to get it up to where it's supposed to be. And so this will obviously be a long process. They'll do a little bit here and there because they have to let the structure basically rest between each time so that it's actually taking that force or that pressure out of the wood before they can get it back to where it needs to be. But ideally, we should be seeing pretty dramatic progress with a project like this. I mean, this is just 1 day of them being here. So I'd say that it's probably a good sign that we hired the right guy. And down here in the bottom of the barn, you can see that they've also reinforced, which makes sense considering that the span between our 2 main beams that hold up the actual weight of the barn, we have all these joists going across. Well, they don't just want to jack up on those in the span, so they've come and they've put these big old floor jacks underneath, and you can see over this middle section, they got a big, what looks like a treated 2x6 there. And so they're supporting all of that weight up there directly down here all the way to the concrete. So looks stable enough, and you can tell they're putting a lot of pressure up on these. So I would say that it's a pretty good connection all the way from the base to the tip of the barn at the moment. So it's been a few days since the last time we were up here, so there's movement being done. You can see they're doing a lot of, I don't know what you call that up there, trussing or something up along the top. They've been moving along, jacking it up, and if you can see, there's chains running across all of the sides being ratcheted together. So they jack up the peak, and then they ratchet in the bottom. Then they're using a combination of a bunch of different methods to reinforce everything. So they've got on top of every joist for the floors down below, they've got these long strips of sheet metal anchoring from the outside all the way down through using big long screws that go down into those white oak joists. And then you can see we had some of these supports already. So if you look at them, the darker ones were the ones that were already in there. They're putting in these brighter ones. They're putting in a lot more of these side supports to support the massive weight of all of those shingles up on the roof. And then, like I said, after they jack it up on top and they pull it in on the bottom and reinforce it down here on the bottom, they're putting in those boards up on the top as well. And so the barn is straightening out a lot. They're also going along and on all of these rafters where, because those are laminate rafters, where they were kind of pulling apart and getting wiggly and having problems and stuff, they're sandwiching all of those with sheets of plywood on both sides cut to shape. So overall, they're adding on a lot as far as structural integrity goes. Like I said, you can see they moved on the scaffolding. You can see some of it's still over here. Most of it was right here before. Now they're moved on to over there. So they're moving along at a pretty solid pace. But again, as is the case that I've said before in this video, I don't have the technical expertise to go through all of it in detail, but that's where we're at for the moment. Well, it's another brisk, what month is it now? February. We're in February now. February 8th, maybe? I'm not sure. The day that we're recording this on. But making a lot of progress in here. You can see it's starting to look like a... Ooh, man, it's chilly up here. Starting to look like a, what do you call it? Traditional rafter barn or whatever, because they've got those braces on all of the sides. The whole top, you can see we got those up there now. They're almost all the way down to the south end. It's getting awful less round in here, starting to look way more like a traditional barn. It's hilarious. They're definitely putting a lot of lumber up in here, and the barn is way straighter from the outside. Sometime when we got some warm weather, or maybe when I'm here during the day, I'll have to get a shot of what it looks like from the outside, but it's definitely straightening out a lot in here. And the walls are all getting pulled into where they're supposed to be. They're actually lining up over top of the concrete. Lots and lots of progress. Just wanted to get another shot though. So that's all. Well, I don't know how well this is going to show up, but it appears that the work is done. The barn looks a lot less round. I'll say that much for it. But it also looks a lot straighter. So you can see looking down it, I mean, I'll have footage from the beginning of the video, hopefully. But I also have the whole video of me fixing the floor up here where you can tell that it did not look like this before. They have, there's no more chains or straps or cables or anything running across the barn. You can see that there's no more scaffolding in the barn. This side's really dark. You can see those nice new doors I installed though. Down below in the, downstairs milking portion of the barn, they put in a couple rods across the barn. I'll show you that when I go down there. But there's nothing up here. So there's no rods or chains or cables or anything that has to stay in across, from one side to the other up here in the haymow. So as far as capacity for storage, especially hay goes, there's not really anything getting in the way. We'll have to rebuild some chutes, like that one there is gone, and the one down in the center is gone. But other than that, it's looking pretty slick. Definitely a lot straighter, and that's obviously the objective that we were going for. So here's one where you can see it. So they put this steel rod that goes all the way across. It connects from one plate to the other. So you can see, if I wiggle it, you can see it moving. So that stretches all the way across the barn, and that's pretty close to the middle point, right at this spot where the wall was doing its most annoying leaning act. So that would be my guess for how this one got positioned here. One big thing worth looking at is you can see where these floor joists run up to the outer plate. There used to be like a 1 to 2 inch gap across the whole barn on both sides, because that's what we meant when we said it was slipping off of the walls. But now, as you can see, it's pretty much tight up against it on every one of these. So they pulled the entire thing all the way back in. So that is what we wanted. All of the extra structure and stuff up top is just to keep it in place. This was the actual repair job that we needed, and that's why we called someone. So all good. Definitely looks like it got fixed. All right, so it's the next day after that last clip I recorded at night. I wanted to finish this video during the daytime, so I waited until today. So it is Thursday, and it is a balmy 5 degrees out, which is quite the improvement over this morning when it was about -9. So actually not too bad. I don't know if you can tell on this video, but I can sure tell. Look how much straighter the spine of the barn looks. Now, there's obviously some snow on it, which gives you a little bit of wiggle, but it is definitely way better than it was before. It was humpbacked as hell before. Now it actually looks decent. You can tell, I mean, it was always barn-shaped, but it's a little bit more barn-shaped now. So let's go take one more look up in the haymow, and we can talk about it a little more when I'm standing out of the wind up in there. The final cost and everything of this project. Okay, so I didn't turn the lights on because it's daytime, and so I automatically didn't default to that, but still you can see a lot better up in here now that it's, daytime. And I think this gives a pretty clear picture. I'll walk all the way to the south end of the barn here and kind of just give you a long shot of the whole barn now that it's been fixed up. But I think this helps kind of demonstrate exactly how much has changed in here. From the beginning of this video to now, it's a huge difference. And of course, like I said last night, I don't know if, I'll find out when I'm editing. I don't know if I had a shot of the barn before this project was started in this video, but I certainly did in the video where I was fixing the floor on that end. But it looks way different now. For one thing, it's way straighter. Like I said, you can tell from the outside. Anyone who is used to what it looked like can tell easily from a distance that it looks a lot different. And from the inside, obviously you can also tell. It looks more like a traditional Dutch style barn in here now because it looks like the walls are angled like you would find in one of those. So it's funny. The inside of the haymow now looks like a more traditional barn, but the outside still is all around raftered looking, but at least it's straight. So there's a couple things to note about what was majorly changed on here, just in case anybody isn't able to see it. So you can see these braces here. There were some of these in already. My dad had put in, well, the darker ones. You can see the darker ones that are in, those ones existed already. So there were already a number of those in here, and it was important that they got put in. If they hadn't been put in when my dad put them in, it's entirely possible that the barn would have collapsed a long time ago. The core issue that we're dealing with here, other than the fact that it's possible that when this barn was built, some of the supplies or methods used were not very good, but the core issue is that back in the day, sometime in the 80s, I believe, so not long after the barn was built, the shingles were damaged by a very severe hailstorm, and it was causing the roof to leak. And so Pa, my grandfather, in his infinite wisdom, decided instead of having those shingles removed and getting new ones put on, or much more intelligently, getting steel put on, he put a second layer of shingles over top, which, yes, a barn can theoretically support, but that, on a roof this sized, is a tremendous amount of weight, okay? Way, way too much. And so that is why, if those braces hadn't been put in when my dad put them in, I don't think this barn would be standing now. I honestly think it would have fallen down a long time ago. That's just way too much weight. So now that we've fixed and straightened out the barn and all of the walls up here, or where the roof ends, is now actually sitting on top of the concrete walls down below, we're very, very confident that it is not going to collapse. So that's the good news. The bad news is we still have a very expensive job to do to finish off this roof, and it's getting those shingles taken off, and because it's 2 layers, it's going to be even more expensive, and getting them replaced with a layer of steel roofing. And now we cannot put the steel right on top of the shingles. If it was 1 layer of shingles, you could do that. But because it's 2, we have to get them both removed and get the steel put on. So we're talking about like a $40,000 to $50,000 job, and that's just what I've gotten from rough quotes from people who have had it done on their barns. I haven't even paid to get an Amish crew out here to, have them give me an estimate yet. But either way, this would have been the first step in that process. It's likely I won't be able to actually get the roof done or be able to afford it until we start farming out of here, because as of right now, this farm does not generate us any revenue at all. My dad rents out the land at the moment, and that's enough to pay the taxes, essentially. Outside of that, this farm is nothing but an expense. And speaking of expenses, it feels like a fairly good time for me to mention how much this cost. And so I have no way of knowing, no frame of reference for this specific industry if this was a good price or not, but the total expense, what my dad paid to get this job done, was $18,200. A lot of that was in materials, because as you can see, a lot of very large lumber was used in this project. And then of course, the rest of it is the fact that we were paying 2 professionals to come out and do this with all of their equipment and all their time and everything. So I understand where the money comes from, but it's not cheap. And so that's just one more expense to add up to the long list of things that are piling up in our project to get this farm running again. So a nice big chunk, possibly the most expensive one so far. I mean, definitely the most expensive one so far. Hopefully there won't be too many more that are more expensive than this. But that's really all I had to say today. I feel weird with this video because I didn't actually do most of this stuff. In fact, I didn't even get video of it being done. I just had a little bit of progress shots here and there, and that's weird for me. Normally I'm the one doing all the work, so I guess that's why I'm talking so much here at the end. If for anyone that's interested, I will, if I can find it, leave a link to the website or contact information for the people that did this for us. So if you need this done, you can contact them as well. But in any case, that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you next time.